In today's episode, my mother ruins an anti-vaxxer Karen and her cronies. You are just cattle to me. Accuse me of stealing, I'll ruin your business and life. So let's get started. My mother ruins an anti-vaxxer Karen and her cronies. First time posting to this subreddit. I decided to post after listening to a ton of her slash. Also, this story was a little too juicy not to post. There's a ton of setup for this one, so bear with me. Background. The subject of this story is my mother. For the sake of this story, I'll call her Amber. She's in her late 70s and works for a women's clothing store which caters specifically to older clientele. She's been working for this particular company for some 20 years now. The manager of the store is the absolute epitome of a Karen, so let's call her Karen. Extremely entitled, short-haired, chubby, cheats on her husband, and a blatant backstabber. Because the store is staffed by mostly older women, cliques tend to form. It's basically high school. Yes, older women can be that petty, and naturally Karen has her own cronies. During periods where no one is in the store, there also tends to be a ton of gossip, important for later. The assistant manager, let's call her Jackie, is also one of Karen's lackeys, and she has her head way up Karen's ass. If Karen does something, then Jackie isn't far behind, etc. Amber is a bit of a ball buster, and she has zero tolerance for garbage in her personal life. Over the years she has tried to stay impartial when it comes to her work, however, because to her it's all about professionalism. She also has empathy, which is something that seems to be in short supply with these other women. It also helps that she has been the top seller for her district for some 10 years running despite working part-time. Karen and Jackie absolutely hate her for it. So much, so that Karen routinely schedules her for hours which are not especially good. Despite this though, Amber still has her loyal clientele, and she always comes out on top against the other sales associates in total sales almost every quarter. As expected, this naturally feeds the horrible feedback loop with Karen and Jackie. When COVID hit, the company decided to cut all commission for sales associates. The commission was one of the main reasons why Amber endured Karen and Jackie's bullshit. While she only made slightly above the state's minimum wage, with the commission, she could double or even triple that amount on good days. According to her, no other retailer in the area offers this kind of system, and it's pretty unlikely that the company will reinstate it even after COVID ends. Along with the cut in wages, the store was also forced to decrease the amount of hours that they could offer to their associates. Karen took this as a way to essentially bar Amber from working at the store. While other associates were getting 8 to 10 hours a week, Amber would see maybe 6, if she was lucky, and they would be during times of low customer traffic. Karen could get away with this because the district manager is also in her pocket. Along with the reduced hours and the removal of commissions, the store naturally had a mandatory mask policy for all employees and customers. Karen and her lackeys would often be *TCH and moan about how unnecessary this was because according to them COVID is a hoax and wearing masks makes you subservient to the government. There were a few incidents where Karen would let people without masks into the store despite the state and company mandates. Amber refused to rock the boat, however, so when this would happen, she would go into the back of the store and stay as far away from these people as possible. During this period in time, a friend of the family and good friend of Amber's passed away due to complications from COVID. The funeral was set for a time when Amber was scheduled to work, so she called out that day. Karen and Jackie attacked Amber, and the deceased claiming that she must have caught the flu or been in bad health, and that Amber was feeding into the lie, "Oh, how nice it must be to live such a privileged life." Not long after, a few of store's loyal clients also passed away from COVID, and still Karen and Jackie, along with their groupies, maintained their narrative in the most vindictive way possible. Every time someone died, it must have been because of bad life choices or bad health. Never was it attributed to the global pandemic that was claiming thousands of people a day, according to Karen and her groupies. And always when Amber decided to go to the services or support the deceased in any way, she would hear snide remarks regarding how she was supporting a hoax. I guess sympathy is not really a thing for these people. Some of these customers were regulars who had been coming to that particular store for years, and still none of the groupies would relent on these points. Recently, the COVID restrictions have started to lift and many of the clientele and employees have gotten their vaccines. This includes submitting paperwork to show that you have indeed obtained a vaccine, or a note from a doctor explaining why you couldn't have one. Not Karen nor Jackie though. To them, getting the vaccine would be like pumping poison into their veins. Instead, they decided to use fake COVID white cards with their information, effectively forging the documents. Amber, however, has suggested multiple times that they just get the vaccines because it is something that is mandated by the company. All employees must get vaccines when they are available, and given that almost all of the employees are above the age of 60, they have been eligible for the shots for months now. Recently, Amber had an emotional conversation directly with Karen where she expressed her concern for her. "I just want you and your family to be safe, so please get the vaccine." Karen responded with her normal snide attitude, of course. A few days later, however, Karen sent a text message mentioning that she had finally got the vaccine. She didn't. Amber replied that it was great and that she was happy for her. Karen just replied with a gif of some guy throwing up the middle finger. This was the beginning of the end for Amber. The incident. During one of her shifts, Amber overheard Karen and Jackie discussing how Amber was a moron and a sheep who bought the story about how Karen had taken the vaccine. During that same shift, Amber was working with a customer in the back and some woman came into the store and stole a couple items of clothing, probably totaling out to be $100 at most. Now it's company policy that during all shifts, there always be at least 2 employees in the store, and during this particular stretch of time, Jackie was the only other person in the store. According to the video cameras, Jackie was up in the front of the store playing with her phone when this woman came in. Normally, if someone steals items from the store, the protocol is to avoid confronting them and instead just call security after they've left the store. This is mainly to avoid lawsuits and to protect the employees should these people choose to get violent. It has happened in the past. That evening, Amber received a call from Karen telling her that she was on probation pending an investigation for allowing this woman to steal from the store. Given the company's policy regarding theft, this really made no sense. It was at this point that Amber truly decided she had had enough. Eventually, this probation led to Amber's dismissal, and the official reasoning was fairly vague. The revenge. One thing that I forgot to mention: a few years ago, Amber asked me to teach her how to record things on her phone, and luckily we live in a single consent state. As such, Amber had recordings of these women backstabbing her and gossiping about rather scandalous things dating back for years. She had gathered quite the collection because you never know when you need to cover your own butt. Over the years, Amber has gone to HR to no real avail, even with her recordings. Whether it be because they are also in the pocket of Karen, or that they just don't care, remains to be seen. The HR department works directly under the district manager. Amber is also very good at keeping any paperwork and proof of these visits, including some recordings. She also recorded the call where she was fired. Amber has a ton of very loyal clients who were pretty distraught when they learned of her dismissal. One client in particular runs a column at one of the major newspapers for the nearby city. We will call her Casey. Since Amber was a part-time worker, she didn't really have much of a leg to stand on legally when it came to claiming a wrongful dismissal claim by legal means. However, that didn't mean that she didn't have any kind of recourse. She decided to attack the problem from multiple fronts. Amber compiled some of the greatest hits from her recording collection and had me email them off to the corporate offices of the company. Specifically, the CEO, CTO, and basically every member of the board of directors. I fired a couple bursts off to anyone who had any power that I could find. Along with those recordings, she wrote an email about how Karen, Jackie, and their group of sheep all refused to get vaccines and had falsified their vaccine documents to pass the company standards. Casey then put Amber in touch with a columnist for the newspaper, and they got copies of the recordings, the text messages, and the dismissal phone call. They also did an interview which was for an article and a TV slot on the local news. Amber discussed the commission cuts, clear favoritism, lack of any intervention by HR, forged documents, company policy, the incident, etc., basically anything relevant to paint these women in a terrible light. Among some of these recordings were bits of gossip that included conversations regarding Karen's various boyfriends over the years. She was married, and Amber also wrote an anonymous email to the husband that included some of these recordings. The fallout. Shit hit the fan pretty fast, as you can probably imagine. Karen, Jackie, the district manager, and a couple of the groupies were immediately fired and put under investigation for forging documents. While forging a vaccine card isn't really something too serious, it could lead to some pretty hefty fines. There is no specific law against forging the vaccine white cards, however, because the white cards contain the government seal. Well, you can just imagine how illegal that might be. Let's just say the FBI has stepped in on this one. One of the recordings featured Karen admitting to using forged cards. After the article and TV slot ran on the local news, the CEO reached out to Amber to formally apologize for the behavior of HR, the district manager, Karen, and Jackie. She even went so far as to offer Amber a raise, but Amber declined because she found a job that actually paid a fair wage and let her work on her own time. The real *TCH of it for the CEO and the board was the fact that their employees were breaking the company policy for a store that exclusively catered to older women regarding a virus that tends to kill older people. They caught some heavy public backlash for this. Karen's husband seems to have separated from her after finding out about her infidelity. Whether or not this will lead to a divorce remains to be seen. The best part for Amber, many of her clients started coming to her new store, and again she's kicking ass as one of the best sales associates. You are just cattle to me. This story goes back pretty much 20 years now. To set the scene, I was working for a then cable TV company. The call center I was working at had been filled with guys poached from dial-up support companies countrywide to support this new superfast broadband that was being trialed in country for the first time. 500K connections, woohoo! I say this because that meant our call center at the time was full of some of the best support engineers anywhere in country. Some of the most intelligent people I have ever known. Anyway, after about a year there, 4 of us we asked to look into complaints sent to the managing director, hereafter known as Big Boss, about the service. Mostly, these were the original brand Karens of the day, but occasionally, the customer complaining was someone rather important and they needed the special touch, so to speak. Turns out the 4 of us has quite different skills but complemented each other perfectly, and before long, we were firm friends with the Big Boss's personal assistant at head office, and had very good reputations to boot after some devilishly difficult issues. Oh yeah, this is before Google, so being good meant you knew your shit, not just how to look it up. It was a great place to work. Turnover was practically zero. The fact all our staff were experienced before getting to us meant we knew what we were getting into. Then came the new director. Hereafter referred to as A-Hole. A-Hole had come from another call center in the company. A customer services call center. He was also completely inept technically. Seriously, this guy once told me that directors don't use Excel and only Word, so I needed to copy all the spreadsheets into Word so he could modify the content and pass off his bullcrap figure showing all was well. He didn't understand how Excel worked as it transpired. Anyway, all was not well. In the short time he'd been there, he had alienated most of the best staff. He tried to turn the staff into script monkeys as he wanted every case fixed in X minutes. We were rebuilding TCP/IP stacks, hacking registries, hell we even talked a few people through Win98 rebuilds. You ever tried to talk your gran through changing a ringtone over phone? Now try imagining getting gran to rebuild Windows after Macashit and Spymantech competed to see which could screw up her machine faster. Now try doing it in 10 minutes or get hauled into A-Hole's office to be screamed at for fucking up his figures. Morale was utterly obliterated and we started losing good people. Head office knew something was wrong, so sent word down the line the Big Boss was coming for a meet and greet. That line went through A-Hole, so of course, on that day, some of the more vocal amongst us were voted off. Those selected to meet the Big Boss were I think the nice word is sycophants, or people who were instructed what to say and followed out of fear. Upshot, Big Boss went away thinking all was well, and there must be some other reason for the issues on site. My break point came when my team was given an impossible task. By this point, I'd already handed in my 30 days. Was about to become a dad, so needed to get a proper career going. He wanted a flow diagram of every possible fault we were dealing with and its solution. And he wanted it all on a single piece of A3 paper. We objected, he demanded, we failed. We got reamed. Our manager got reamed, and let me tell you, she defended the hell out of us. We tried in vain to explain the nature of the calls, to explain that the reason we paid these very clever people to do this job was because they were essentially playing tech support to a nation of people who had turned a computer on for the first time ever today, did something they didn't know was stupid and broke their machine. That means their internet didn't work, hence, our problem. His response, at a volume comparable with a tornado jet taking off at full burner: I don't give a f***ck. Let me get this through your stupid f***king heads. You are nothing and I am a director, and when I tell you to do something, you do it, or I will fire every single one of you. I can replace any one of you anytime I want because you are nothing but cattle. Now get the f***ck out of my office. I went home livid. My girlfriend at the time, pregnant with our first, worked in the same office, so while I was getting out, she would have to continue deal with a-hole. Knowing how he intended to treat my friends and family, I needed to do something. I didn't have a clue what I could do. Friday, I go into work, ostensibly to say my goodbyes and do exit interview, paperwork and such. One of those goodbyes was a phone call to Big Boss's PA. Me saying goodbye was a shock, because I'd been expressly forbidden to tell them over the previous month by, you guessed it, a-hole. She wanted to know why I was leaving. I told her. She asked me if I minded her telling Big Boss what I had said. I'll be honest, I didn't seriously believe anything would come of it, but what the hell, I thought. Sure. I'll get back to you soon, and she's gone. 20 minutes later, she calls me and says Big Boss wants to talk to me, so can he have my personal mobile number? I give it, and sure enough, minutes later the big man himself calls. The next 30 minutes is spent detailing why I was leaving. Why we had lost nearly 100 people already, and had 18 resignations that week alone. Why didn't I hear about this when I was there the other week? So I related the little personnel shuffle and the threats. This was my moment, and I tell you, I carped the hell out of that DM. Me look, Big Boss, I get all you have is my word, and I could be just some disgruntled dipshit, but my friends and family are going to have to work here after I've gone. And by family I mean my pregnant girlfriend, so I have to do something. If you want to find out the truth, here is what you do. Turn up on site unannounced for a day. Send out your own email to the site as soon as you arrive, giving no time for a-hole and his cronies to get to anyone. Tell them to come to you if they have any concerns. Here is a list of people that should corroborate much of what I've said. The rest, it's up to them if they want to do something. Then decide if I'm a dipshit. After a bit more chatting, the call ended, and I went back to say goodbye to everyone. I told a few people, including my manager, what I'd done, and told them if Big Boss did turn up, to get in there and tell him what's going on. Then I bid them all farewell, and said I would see them all at the mass leaving due at them end of the month. I'm at my new job the Tuesday after, and I get a text from the GF, Big Boss is here unannounced. More texts from other ex-colleagues saying pretty much the same thing. From what I gathered afterwards, Big Boss did exactly what I suggested, and it played out pretty much as I thought it might. There was a queue. A long one. That night, a-hole was summoned to Big Boss's impromptu office, and after that meeting, he went home. He was never seen again. I did get a call from Big Boss. He can't discuss details, but I'll be very pleased to know I'm not a dipshit. Leaving due was pretty cool too. I think. On entry, I was told I wouldn't be paying for a single drink that night. From there my memory goes from fuzzy to total blank. The hangover the next 2 days was brutal, but totally worth it. Update: a few people have asked if we knew any more on A-hole after the fact, so I went looking. I went looking again on things like LinkedIn and such, and after a lot of looking, fairly common name, I bashed in the right combo of name and company and found him. LinkedIn confirmed he lost his job in 2001 when this all happened. He eventually found a new job in 2002, but it seems he bounced through a few companies with pretty big gaps in his work history. Currently seeking new opportunities for the last 4 years. Accuse me of stealing, I'll ruin your business and life. This little story of revenge is about how I got even with a former boss, and how I destroyed his and his business partner's life in the process. Many years ago I worked at an electronics repair store that will not be named. It was the only one in our smallish town, so everyone came there. I worked my way up from lowly tech to store manager in roughly 6 months. A few months after I made store manager, one of the owners, who we will call Dennis, insisted on bringing his nephew in as a part-time employee. Don't get ahead of me, Redditors. I initially didn't have any issues with the kid. He had come to the store on multiple occasions, and we would all sit around in the back and talk. So again, I had no issues with bringing him on part-time. For a good month or two, the kid, who we will call Kevin, busted his behind, did everything right. He could solder an HDMI port on a PS4 in minutes, one less thing for me to do. Profits for the store were skyrocketing and things seemed rather fine from where I was standing. I was due to make a fairly large bonus that year as long as the store kept turning the amount of money it was turning. I figured at this time, we could make Kevin our assistant manager, and I could go back to doing paperwork, inventory orders and such, and leave the running of things to him. Well, mistakes were definitely made. I had a bad habit of writing down my login PIN because Dennis and his business partner Jay were idiots and wanted the PIN to be 9347893247349 digits long. These PINs were required to access everything from sales data to the cash register and more. Anyway, around the time that I was turning over the majority of stuff to Kevin to do, I also started taking classes at the local university, so again, me being the idiot that I was, would leave to go to class before coming back and finishing my shift. Dennis and Jay were fine with this as long as I left someone competent in charge. Fast forward to the end of the month when accounts receivable numbers were run. And wouldn't you know it, we were short by thousands that month. I discussed everything with Dennis and Jay, and we assumed it was a computer glitch. There was no way after almost a year of working there that the numbers were off. I had never had this happen before. The next month we were once again off. It was around this time that Dennis and Jay came to me and started accusing me of stealing from them. They pointed out all of the days that the numbers didn't match up and saw that I was always closing that night. When I tried to explain to them that I was in class on those days when the money came up missing, and suggested that they look at Kevin, Dennis blew his top. He said, how dare I accuse his nephew of anything, that it was my PIN used to access the register, etc. Needless to say, I was fired. Luckily they didn't call the cop because, in Jay's words, I had made them a boatload of money. Plan. A couple of years had passed since I was working there. I graduated college with a degree in business, and had moved on with my life, or so I thought. One night while I was out at the store, I heard from behind me, "Yo thief." As I turn around I see Kevin and Dennis with a SHT-eating grin on their faces. I shrug it off and walk away, continuing to hear their childish taunts. While in my car, I began to formulate a plan. I was going to crush these mother effers no matter how long it took. It took me 2 months of planning, but finally I figured that I would use my social engineering skills and my business savvy to completely crash their business. I broke the HDMI port on my PS4 on purpose and took it in to have it fixed. Kevin and a girl that had started there a few weeks earlier were the only two working. Kevin: "Hey, welcome to such and such." "Oh, it's you, thief. What can I help you with?" Me: "First off, you can stop calling me that. You and I both know it's bullshit." Kevin: "Sorry dude, Dennis told me to call you that. I'm sorry how everything went down. What can I help you with?" Me: "My HDMI port broke. do you guys still repair them? Kevin, yeah, we still repair them, it's $115. Me, Dan, you guys went up in price? Good on you. So, how's everything been since I left? Kevin, you mean since you were fired for stealing? Me, yeah, whatever, we both know that's bullshit. I knew Kevin was trying to impress the girl, but didn't care at that minute. We'll come back to her. As I glanced around, I saw that they had added some new things to the store, including OtterBox cases and such. Me, whoa, that's new. How did you guys manage to get in with OtterBox? Kevin, oh, we didn't, they kept turning us down, so I found a Chinese distro. We get them for $5 and sell them for $30. Me thinking to myself, this dude loves to blab, I need him to keep it up. Me, so, how much have the prices gone up on other things? Kevin, oh, quite a bit actually. You thought you were turning this store a profit, let me show you something. He showed me their new price list, which was insane on the pricing and also a big mistake. Revenge is mine. I never believed in ripping anyone off, so I always convinced Dennis and Jay our pricing was fair. And that they didn't need to charge a lot for repairs. Since they were the only game in town, they had everyone by the balls. After the work was finished, I said goodbye and made sure to wave to the girl as I walked out. This is when my plan really went into motion. I had everything I needed to crush these mother effers. All except a building. The next day, I looked around for a location to begin to dismantle their monopolistic hold on the town. As luck would have it, a location right across the street from their store was coming up for rent. I quickly signed the lease and began to distribute flyers letting the town know about our coming grand opening. On the flyer, I was offering 90% off the first repair. Basically, I was doing the work for free, just all they had to do was pay the part price. Opening day comes and I have 60 people there to get repairs. Ranging from iPhone screen repairs to simple PC tune-ups. This went on like this for months. Sure, I was taking a loss on the building rent, but this being a smallish town, the rent was easily manageable. After things started to settle down and business became steady, Dennis and Jay started losing massive business due to the new guy in town. They still hadn't realized it was me. Jane walked in as I was closing up shop. Jane, if you recall, was the girl who worked for Dennis that Kevin was trying to hit on. Apparently she had been let go that night and was looking for another job. I immediately gave her the job because she knew her SHT. I asked her what all happened over there, and she said everything has gone to SHT, and that the store has been losing tens of thousands since this place opened, and that she would have left sooner if she didn't need the job. Kevin apparently really liked her and couldn't keep his hands to himself. A month after Jane came in, Dennis and Jay came in to see who their new comp was. As they walked in, I greeted them as I do any customer. Me, welcome to New Guy's Electronic Repair, how can I help you? Dennis, does the owner know he hired a thief? Me, oh, I'm sure he knows you're full of SHT on that one. Dennis, get me your manager, you piece of SHT thief. Me, sir, I am the manager, how can I help you? Dennis, well, is the owner here? Me, yes sir, he is. Dennis, good, then go get him, so that I can tell him what a thief you are. Me, sure, 1 minute. I walk into the back and start talking to Jane. We both enjoy a laugh, because she overheard this dude. I walk out of the back and look at Dennis. Me, how can I help you? Dennis, you can stop playing games and get me your owner. Me, pointing to the sign behind me, yeah, that's me, how can I help you? Dennis, you're the one that has been taking all of our business. Me, yep, you called me a thief, when you knew all along it was your piece of SHT nephew that was stealing from you. I made it my life's mission to destroy you, the day you and Kevin called me a thief in the store. You couldn't leave well enough alone. Jay, you mean to tell me that this is his fault? Looking at Dennis. Me, yep, and yours as well, you had a chance to stick up for me and didn't. If I can't assist you gentlemen with a repair or anything, I kindly ask that you leave my store. Dennis, fuck you, you haven't heard the end of us. This quite literally cracked me up, the dude trying to talk tough. I laughed as they stormed out of my store. About this time, Jane came from out of the back area and dropped her phone. I bent down to pick it up and noticed that it was the fake otter boxes that the other store was selling. I made an anonymous tip to Otterbox regarding them selling counterfeits. Boy, let me tell you, Otterbox doesn't f-king play. Within a week the other store was raided. Kevin, Dennis and Jay were all arrested for selling counterfeit items and were sued into bankruptcy. As for Jane and I, well, we just welcomed our first child into the world and have been married for a year and a half. If you're reading this, Kevin, little f-king thief, not only did I cost you and your uncle everything, but I also took your woman. Thanks for watching.